Traitors. Them fucking traitors. Check it out. They say that they was down for the fam, but I disagree. Remember summertime in the van, it was misery. AC never worked, no crack, I feel the breeze. Guess that ain't shit to you, so loyalty. They rather be up home with the mama, but roll no weed. I'd rather put the love of my brothers over the greed. I'd rather be online when I battle my enemies. They're home on the internet, pushing and punching keys. They say that they had love for the camp, but it leaves. We don't need that kind of love, I'ma just keep it G. My heart done got gold on traders like Miss Bees. We just want to show you how feel to get victory. I'm with UPK, so we ain't really seeing defeat. We battle on the corners, opponents and fricassee. We side switching niggas, flipping your different teams. Bad my one West lucky, he let you breathe. General told us to let you be. Said he had to go cause he ain't cream. But really he just see us niggas like all the team. He leave, now he broke, he's smoking on nicotine. Copping down for partner, he should got another team. Since I've been with you, big like I'm living a dream. Pulling up in the 90s long as the limousine. Hopping out with soldiers, you thinking we the Marines. But we the one with beers, we mother no magazines. All my brothers' teams never overthrow the regime. And we gon' reign forever, our level supreme. Fucking traitor.
Yeah, why you left the truth, my nigga, you silly, yo. Just to get taught by a nigga who really go to ISUPK online. Videos, we should take them all down to see what they really know. Get your boots, lace them up, let's follow the generals. Always speaking truth, no speaking subliminal shit. Line upon line, even letters and syllables. Cause the ISUPK is the fucking original shit. All my niggas kings who used to be criminals. In the land of the bees, the home of the Seminoles. Don't cross the fucking line, cause it can get critical. Cause my head is my nigga, it's down to get physical. Shit, I shouldn't have to say but something you should know. Like the white man is the devil and cause I need bro. And he died for the blacks, Hispanics, and chief show. Something there one of your preachers will ever teach show. If you wanna know the truth, you know where to come find it. UPK, you leaders gon' pay homage. Big rubies, kiss gold and bleed diamonds. On a bond mission to free my people from bondage. There's a new set of rules you shall all have to abide by. The non-lyrical shall be terminated. I'm in a hell of a hole, was never expected to grow. This obstacle sat in the road, that a resort of me selling my soul. The story I'm telling is cold, that is what everyone knows. The white man's the devil is known. Brooklyn was never a home. Only a place of captivity, safe facility, hating, disfigure me. They claim that I'm lazy be killing me. Maybe the slavery draining my energy. 400 years and counting. The chill of my tears is countless. The fact that them here is astounding, but I can't wait till this shit is surrounded. Ready to tangle my king and the angel, be ready to rap. Cracking the sky. Nuclear missiles and make it official. I'm capturing every crack of surviving. Put them all in chains, where need to be, slavery for me. The whole world's heated with them in the cages, safer in the streets. Put the dog on a leash, get resolved for the beach. 144, get the photo show, we can all be a piece. As soon as the trumpets are sound, your kingdom we busting it down. The only way justice is found, the time for your judgment is now.
You see just how it feels. Payback is a no. Payback is a no. Payback is a
Look, ain't no remorse in my blood cell. It won't will be no compromise. Now it's time to feed the worms. Watch his body turn to flies. I clutch iron while you trust the lies. The next Glock I'm back gon' be different. I get it customized. And sending shots on the wheel. Praying payback. Come back around like a carousel. Still remember your honest words ringing in my head like bells. Said you in this body, you fit the Lord, fuck the cartel. Triangle choker, plot presence to the game like I did Von Hell. Fade back to this dress, she a bombshell. Just dish served cold. I just hope they make an oxtail. Block fresh out the box, I swear it got that new car smell. Made myself a target in the world of man shooters. That was designed fire for our babies to pass through in the damn. My king's reign, I'll be overzealous. They want my jealous, I bought brand new pair of fellas.
You'll see just how it feels. Payback is a payback
I got you. Let it rap real quick. Look. The city eyes. It's time to vote on. Black on the nigga. Cause he want no flaw. The corner like a watchdog. Family secure. Got that shot in the closet by the pop ball. Fuck what they heard. But tell them it's all true. These forces and foundation forces can fall through. They gon' fall. Look, I keep this shit 50 times 2 times. Ain't no more hard in this game. No job cute. Colder than the avalanche. Way above average. Bitch taste deep. Told them make me an apple tree. Left us in the valley full of bones. This where hope found. Java come on, man. Dark sands get broke down. Brand new Evans to a mall quad. Telling me how the crackers turn the shower into a ghost town. Focus out there, I lay their game down. I feel his pain cause nothing is the same now. Let my light shine like heaven through a rain cloud. Glock have a fit like my child, no bench. Try to warn them niggas we play all like tarantulas. Them mother niggas Ray and the booty. I really see profits under this banner. Make my enemies bow down on camera. Told my design I want it black and white like a panda. I'm better than that nigga that's so dirty to handle. Look, I move like a Brazilian. Precious cargo, spirit Asian, but I got a really see me on though. Wave that bitch around like where's Wardo. Sleep if they won't, I cut through they seeds like I'm Zorro. Pay me for his name, so I gotta keep that steel clutch. Trust me, I'm not what you think. I squeeze till it click like Dorothy when the heels touch. The world got me dumb, I don't feel much. Ride around with Yaradon, just left the state bridge. Looking for a bitch better than baby kid. Remember I dropped twice gone, I've been gone ever since. Still in the field, fuck them niggas on the fence, yeah.
Shalom, Israel. This is the ISUPK under Commander General Yohana. Started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. This is the ISUPK, Kentucky, Monday night history class. I am priest and officer Zabak Yasharala. And my topic tonight that I'll be talking about the history on Nat Turner. And as well as you know, I'll be giving you some scriptures and breakdown pertaining to the things that Nat Turner went through. As you know, I'm talking, when I say the things that Nat Turner went through, I mean far as along the lines as, you know, being a slave and being in slavery. And I'm in 1,000% agreement with what Nat Turner did. when he rebelled against them devils. And it was I mean, he had to. He had to because he was born into slavery, and he got to see things that we could just imagine, and it's it's crazy, And as I talk tonight, I'm gonna share something. My grandmother. I have a grandmother she's like 97 or 98, and she was born into slavery. This is my mother. This is my mother, and by her being born into slavery, it really traumatized her. I mean, even still to this day, and as well as the things that Nat Turner went through, as well as many of our brothers and sisters. I can only imagine. But we have got to see some things. Even people that have been born, say like 30, 40 some years ago, even if the things that they are seeing right now today, it's still under that banner of slavery. And a lot of us people, when I say people, I mean so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, they don't want to accept it, but you have to accept it for what it is, because the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indian man, woman, and child, even today we are still in slavery. We are still in bondage. A lot of us, we really don't know what slavery is, and we think that because of a certain lifestyle, because you're making a certain amount of money on your job, that you think that you free until these devils really let you know that you still a nigga. I don't care what type of Benz you got. I don't care the house that you live in, where you went to school. Oh. I like it, Israel. I don't care where you went to school at, still in bondage. Because like it says in the scriptures, the earth given into the hands of the wicked. And right now to this day, they are running this earth. They are running this earth. But we're going to get our just due reward. When that sky crack and Yahweh Shah comes back with them thousands upon thousands of angels. But the world ignorantly calls him Jesus. But when he do return, lo and behold, it's going to be a day of reckoning. It's going to be a day of reckoning. And we coming up out this bondage. We is coming up out this bondage. And it's not nothing that no one can do. But I'm gonna jump into a little history on Nat Turner, because it's a little bit of reading, and I'm gonna try to run through it a little bit just for time's sake. This is the history of Nat Turner. Nathaniel Nat Turner, from 1800 to 1831 was an enslaved man who led a rebellion of enslaved people on August 21st, 1831. His actions set off a massacre of up to 200 black people and a new wave of oppressive legislation prohibiting the education movement and assembly of enslaved people. I I can see that. I can see that happening because these devils are so crafty at what they do. They'll take things that we do and will enforce laws, but y'all won't make laws that would protect us from y'all. Y'all won't give us no hate crime law. Y'all won't come up with no hate crime bill. And it's crazy because certain moves that we do, even if you look at on your job, even if you look at within the school system, if there's certain things that you would do that is not in the guidelines that have already been written by them, they will implement that in there. They will come up and say, oh, okay, you did this, now we're going to do this. So I could see them coming up with a new wave of oppressive legislation prohibiting the education movement. I can see that because, they didn't want slaves to read back then because they felt like if you read that would empower you. When we are people that we came from a people of power, we just lost that due to not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. But that's a whole nother class. But these people felt like they were smarter than us, which they wasn't, because we the ones that educated them when they the ones came out the Caucasus Mountains. It's just that we lost our place in rulership due to disobedience of the Most High. But we had, once we was kidnapped, once we were stolen and took it into slavery, we had to learn everything that was of new. Because when they came upon us with a strange language. Because the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, we spoke Hebrew. We wasn't speaking no English. That was not our native tongue. So for them to come and say that, they didn't want us reading and things of that nature, we had to learn their language. But we adapted to change like it was no tomorrow. A new wave of oppressive legislation prohibiting the education movement and assembly of enslaved people. The rebellion also stiffened pro-slavery, anti-abolitionist convictions that persisted in the region until the American Civil War, 1861 to 65. Early life. Turner was born on the Virginia plantation of Benjamin Turner, who allowed him to be instructed in reading, writing, and religion. Sold 3 times his childhood and hired out to John Travis. Wow, he was sold 3 times as a child. That's wickedness at an all-time high. Because these people did not have no remorse for the old nor young. And that's in scripture. And and I'm gonna touch on that. You sold him as a child 3 times and you hired him out to a John Travis. And I'm up for a second. That's why I don't get our brothers and sisters that you want to go and mess with these devils. You was laid down with the same people that would have sold you into slavery. But you gonna see who these people is, because we coming up in times to where it's gonna be a racial war. and you're going to see just how much these people do not love you. Because if you get caught in the crossfire, the same person that you laying there, they're going to sell you out in that moment. They're going to sell you out in that moment to these people. And then you're going to think back and you're going to be like, oh, but you can't call on God. You're going to try with everything you own to call on the Most High. But it's too late. It's too late. Because here in the ISUPK and the Commander General Hunter, we tell our people to get out from up under these people. To get out from up under these people. But you can't say that you haven't been warned. You cannot say that you have not been warned. Sold 3 times in his childhood and hired out to John Travis in the 1820s. He became a fiery preacher and leader of enslaved Africans on Benjamin Turner's plantation in his Southampton County neighborhood, claiming that he was chosen by God to lead them from bondage. I can see that, and I can understand that. I can understand that because that ain't no different than Harriet Tubman. That ain't no different than other slaves that ran. You know, that's with anybody. Ain't no different than you take the average man and woman, if they in a relationship, if they in a marriage, and things not going right, and they feel like, you know, I don't know this person that who I'm married to. I don't know that this person I got into the relationship. So they looking for a way out. They looking for a way out. That ain't no different if you had a dog chained up to a tree for X amount of years. The whole time you had the dog, he chained up to a tree. The minute that this dog is let free, and I'm not saying that my peoples are dogs. I'm just speaking hypothetical. I'm just using this as a little short story. But the minute that the dog get let go, he is gone. That's with anybody that is feel like they are being held against their will, and you know things ain't going right. The minute that they can see some daylight, they out. They out. That ain't different when you take the average so-called black woman, Hispanic. If she is dealing with a brother that is constantly putting his hands on her, taking her through changes, let him get incarcerated. She out. It ain't no more we doing this, we doing that. Nah, she out. She out. Insurrection, believing signs and hearing divine voices. Turner was convinced by an eclipse of the sun in 1831 that the time to rise up had come, and he enlisted the help of 4 other enslaved men in the area. An insurrection was planned, aborted, and rescheduled for August 21st, 1831. When he and 6 others killed, the Travis family managed to secure arms and horses and enlisted about 75 other enslaved people. So now people can hear this story and be like, wow, he was crazy, yo, he did this, he did that. That ain't no different than you had people going and killing other people. You had people that, listening to this story, they would think that Nat Turner was a rebellion. Nah, Nat Turner was in his right mind because Nat Turner was seeing the crimes that was being committed on his people. The crime that was being committed on his people. But he did not let that traumatize him. And I'm a sidebar for a second. When you take these people that was taking our peoples and was killing them at will, When I was talking about my grandmother a little earlier, my grandmother was traumatized as a child because some so-called white men came and took her father out the house, took her father out the house. She never seen her father no more in life. She never seen him from that day that he walked out. So, you know, that traumatized my grandmother. I don't know what that feels like, but I know I can say this much. I know what it feels like to be separated from a parent. And I can say that off me going to prison. I can say that. But to have these devils come in your house and take a parent, that ain't no taking a child. Like y'all is some real live monsters. And y'all still do that to this day. Y'all still do that to this day. When y'all be shooting these brothers down and y'all killing these brothers in the streets, y'all taking them away from their family. Y'all taking them away from their kids. Man. But y'all day coming though. Y'all day coming. Trust and believe y'all gonna get the reward of your hands now. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, so shall he reap. But y'all don't like to talk about that in church. Y'all don't like to talk about that in church. But the same Bible that I got, that I'm going to read from tonight, is sitting in y'all churches. Yeah, you Joel Osteen, Paula White, Joyce Mayhem. Yeah, Joyce Myers, for the record. All of y'all, Benny Hinn, all of y'all. TD Snakes, you down with him, Cuff Your Dollar. All of y'all, man. All of y'all got to pay, man. All of y'all got to pay. But let me stay on topic. And enlisted about 75 other enslaved people in a large but disorganized insurrection. That wasn't no disorganized insurrection. That was organized. That was just didn't have enough manpower. But I'm going to give it up to Nat Turner for doing what he did. I'm going to give it up to him. Y'all people just don't know. Y'all just don't know what that feel like. Y'all don't know what that feel like. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, y'all would go crazy. Y'all would go all out. That resulted in the murder of an estimated of 55 white people. Afterwards, Turner hid nearby successfully for 6 weeks until his discovery, conviction, and hanging at Jerusalem, Virginia, along with 16 of his followers. The incident put fear in the heart of Southerners. I bet it did. In an organized emancipation movement in that region, resulted in even harsher laws against enslaved people and independent the schism between slaveholders and free soilers, an anti-slavery political party whose slogan was free soil, free speech, free labor, and free end, that will culminate in the Civil War. But all of that right there, all of that free soil, free speech, free men, all of that went towards them, so-called white people. It was nothing in favor of the people they enslaved. It was nothing. Hey, y'all people are scum, disgusting. Y'all are scum and disgusting. But then y'all want to sit and say that the ISUPK and the Community General, we're a hate group. Man, y'all the most hated people, the most hated group on the face of this earth. Everywhere that y'all ever step foot, y'all done killed. Y'all have done did the most. It ain't a drug. It's not a disease. You can't even take 2 or 3 nations that can compare to the murdering and things that y'all have did. Oh man. Let me touch on something else. I'm gonna go to something else. It said 10 things you may not know about Nat Turner's rebellion. Number 1, Turner was an educated minister. Turner reportedly told Thomas Ruff Gray in a jailhouse interview published in the Confessions of Nat Turner that when he was 3 or 4 years old, he could provide details of events that occurred before his birth. His astonished mother and others took the comments as that he was a prophet and intended for great purpose. The young Turner showed uncommon intelligence and was taught to read and write. Deeply religious grandmother nurtured his spiritual development to a mind-like mind, restless, inquisitive, and observant of everything that was passing. It was easy to suppose that religion was the subject to which it would direct. Salaki. It will be directed, said Turner, who regularly read the Bible and preach to his fellow enslaved people. I can say this, that he probably had knowledge enough to know that reading the Bible, that it was talking about us. Because he had some ancestors that was around that held on to our customs, held on to our ways of living. Because if you look back at slavery, you can still see that how our women were still dressed. Long sleeve shirt, head wrapped up. They had dresses that came down to their ankles. So, they still held on to the customs. They still held on to our ways. So I could see him taking the Bible and reading it and seeing that the Bible was really talking to us. And when I say us, I mean the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. Number 2, he once ran away from his master and returned a month later. When Turner was 21, he followed in his father's escape from his owner, to the astonishment of his fellow enslaved people. However, the future rebel leader came back, and they want to say he rebelled. Like, there ain't no such thing as him being rebel. It's just that he was I'm not gonna say he was being rebel. It's just that he was adapting to his situation, and he overcame his situation. Like, he not gonna settle for that, and I don't blame him. It's just he just thought a little more out of the box. It just nah. I don't see that him being rebel. Say the future rebel leader came back to the plantation after spending 30 days in the woods because, as Turner reportedly told Gray, the spirit appeared to me and said, I had my wishes directed to the things of this world and not to the kingdom of heaven, and that I should return to the service of my earthly master. Number 3, Turner claimed to have been divinely chosen to lead the rebellion. The divine messages to return to his master wasn't the last that Turner would claim to have received from the Most High God. He reportedly confessed to Gray that he received divine visions to avenge slavery and to lead his fellow enslaved people from bondage. The most vivid of these visions came on May 12, 1828, when Turner heard a loud noise in the heavens, and the Spirit instantly appeared to me and said, the serpent was loose, and Christ had laid down the yoke he had borne for the sins of men, and that I should take it on and fight against the serpent. For the time was fast approaching when the first should be last and the last should be first. Yeah, see, like I said, he was reading the Bible because that is in the Bible. He that is last shall be first. He that is first shall be last. And that's a powerful scripture to me. I hold on to that. I hold on to that. And the Most High can put a spirit on a person. That's just like the Most High put a spirit on Samson to fight against all them Philistines and go up against these other nations. That's like the Most High put a spirit on Noah, David. So yeah, I can be in agreement with Nat Turner. Number 4, an eruption of Mount St. Helens may have triggered the launch of the rebellion. When the daytime sky went dark on February 12, 1831, during a solar eclipse, Turner believed it a sign from God to begin the planning for his uprising. After meeting secretly for months with fellow plotters, the daylight sky once again took on an odd appearance. On August 13, 1831, as Patrick H. Vereen details in his books, The Land Shall Be Deluged in Blood, a new history of the Nat Turner. Newspapers from Georgia to New York printed accounts of the sun shone of its beams and shedding a grayish blue light on the earth. Through the hazy light, a spot was also visible to the naked eye, while Turner took the sun's strange appearance as a sign to proceed with the insurrection. Its true cause was an atmospheric disturbance that could have been tied to an event nearly 3,000 miles away. His eruption of Mount St. Helens in the state of Washington. After reading this now, I can see why they never talked about Nat Turner in school. Because you would take on that spirit. You would take on that spirit to stand for your peoples and not take the BS off of these so-called devils. Salaki. Off of these so-called white people that are devils that the Bible speak of. But I can see why y'all would teach more about Martin Luther King to keep that type of spirit on the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, because the more that you talked about Martin Luther King, the more that you showed the things that was of Martin Luther King, you would want us to come together, hold hands. You showing the stories about us getting water hosed down. You showing the stories about the dogs attacking us and things of that nature. So, with that being said, if you fell up under that spirit of Martin Luther King, this is what these devils are saying. Nigga, don't forget. Don't forget the things that we have done to y'all. Do not forget. So yeah, you will want us to take on this Martin Luther King spirit more so than that Nat Turner spirit. Because you know that Nat Turner spirit, you know y'all got problems. You know you got problems. Number 5, the rebellion may have killed as many as 60 men, women, and children. The rebellion began with Turner's small band of hatchet wielding enslaved people killed his master, Joseph Travis, along with his wife, 9-year-old son, and a hired hand as they slept in their beds. Realizing they had one family member alive in the house, 2 of Turner's men returned to the Travis home and killed a little infant sleeping in a cradle. So, you know, somebody hear me reading this, and they'll say, wow, they killed a little infant in the cradle. But y'all, don't let that y'all off. Because when it came to our peoples, these devils had a thing called alligator bait. Alligator bait. Where they was and set aside from alligator bait, they was taking our sisters, pregnant sisters, cutting the stomachs. Baby would fall out, and they would make a bet to see who would die first. killed a little infant sleeping in the cradle before dumping its body in the fireplace. As they swept through the countryside, Turner's men freed enslaved people as they continued the killings. Upwards of 75 of them joined the uprising over the ensuing 2 days and killed dozens of whites. Number 6, after eluding the military for 2 months, Turner was captured by a farmer. Hundreds of federal troops and thousands of military men quelled the uprising after 48 hours and captured most of its participants except for Turner himself. In spite of an intense manhunt, the ringleader remained hidden in the woods just miles away from the Travis farm where the rebellion began. For 2 months, on October 30th, 1831, Benjamin Phelps was walking across a nearby farm and noticed some brushwood collecting in a manner to excite suspicion. According to a Richmond newspaper, below an overturned pine tree, when Phelps raised his gun, a emancipated Turner emerged from the foxhole and surrendered. Number 7, more than 50 were executed in the rebellion's aftermath. Dozens stood trial for their participation in the rebellion, while some were acquitted. More than 50 were convicted and sentenced to death by a collection of 20 judges, all slaveholders. In addition, revenge-minded white mobs lynched blacks who played no part in the uprising. See? Y'all killed so-called blacks that ain't had a part in that. Y'all killed these people that ain't even have a part in what took place. Y'all just killed them anyway because this is y'all nature. Y'all are murderers even from the beginning. They say while some historians have estimated that the mob killed between 100 and 200 enslaved people, Breen estimates the death toll closer to 40. He points out that slaveholders wished to protect their enslaved property, and a week after the revolt, the Virginia militia issued an order prohibiting the killing of enslaved in an attempt to why is it like this? In an attempt to rein in the vigilante. Number 8, the divinely inspired Turner met his end in a town named Jerusalem. After his arrest, Turner was taken to the seat of Southampton County, a small town called Jerusalem, present-day Cortland, Virginia. 6 days after his capture, he stood trial and was convicted of conspiring to rebel and making insurrection. Sentenced to death, Turner was hanged from a tree on November 11, 1831. Salaki, if I may, Israel, in my eyesight, Turner did well. Turner did good. Nat Turner did good. I see why they don't teach this in school. Because our little ones, would take on this Nat Turner spirit. But that spirit will have to be directed. That spirit will have to be directed in the ways of righteousness. You know, I'm not saying to take on that spirit and go out and do killing and things of that nature, but just take on that spirit, just not to be so weak-minded and talking about we holding hands, we coming together, we doing it. Nah. That type of spirit could be guided in the ways of righteousness. It would. Number 9, Turner may have been skinned after his execution. Turner's body did not receive a formal burial, but details about what did happen to the body are not known. As Tony Horowitz reported in the New Yorker. According to several reports, the rebel leader corpse was given to doctors for dissection and his body parts distributed among white families. As recounted by John W. Cromwell in a 1920 article in the Journal of Negro History, Turner was skinned to supply such souvenirs as purses, his flesh made into grease, and his bones divided as trophies to be handed down as heirlooms. And I bet you to this day, his bones is still out in Virginia, hidden. I put money on it. Number 10, in the wake of rebellion, states passed laws making it illegal to teach African Americans how to read or write. Nat Turner's revolt contributed to the radicalization, Salaka Israel, of American politics that helped the United States on its course toward the Civil War. Rights bring. In Virginia, the rebellion marked the end of a nascent abolitionist movement. Months after the insurrection, the legislature narrowly rejected a measure of gradual emancipation that would have followed the lead of the North, instead pointing to Turner's intelligence and education as a major cause of the revolt. Measures was passed in Virginia and other states in the South that made it unlawful to enslave people and free African Americans how to read or write. And they did that because, along with them restricting new laws upon slaves, which was more oppression, they did that so that by you not knowing how to read, you was like really going through oppression. You learn how to read, and you heard the stories about Nat Turner, like I said, you had that Nat Turner spirit on you. But I'm quite sure they enforced laws and made it harder for our brothers and sisters to even, just can't catch a break at nothing. Because for one, you was already in scrutiny just being a slave, just being under these devils. Like, these are the wickedest people that is. But like the Most High said it best. He said the wicked is made for the day of evil. So, these people think that, in their empire, that they're going to go on being in rulership, that they're going to go on keep enslaving, they're going to go on and keep killing. They just think that their empire is just going to keep lasting. But little do they know, every empire on the face of this earth came to an end. Every empire that was on the face of this earth had slaves. So, with that being said, once your empire ended, guess what ended too? Slavery. So just like how the Most High God destroyed Egypt for having us in slavery, the Most High going to destroy America, because America is doing the same thing that Egypt has done. Y'all have people in captivity right now to this day. Y'all have people in slavery right now to this day. And y'all think that is like the thing to do. Y'all think that is the thing to do. And I'm gonna go into scripture now and break these scriptures down. But you know, like I said earlier, Nat Turner at the time of being enslaved and being rebellious, you know, to me, and this is from me, he was in the right spirit. He was in the right spirit. He was in the right spirit. And if I'm wrong, I know my brothers correct me, but I don't feel like I'm wrong for Nat Turner doing what he did, because the man was under oppression, being a slave. The man was seeing his people being hung, his people being whipped. He was seeing his sisters being raped. He was seeing babies like being killed at will. Like it was, come on. I'm quite sure he witnessed buck breaking, set aside from the raping. But when I say he was in the right spirit, I'm gonna touch on Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1. The Most High said, to everything there's a season. So when he did what he did, to everything there's a season. And a time to every purpose under the heaven. So he was in the right spirit to me. He was in the right spirit. Because it's going to come a day when the Most High going to put that same spirit on his people. It's going to come a day the Most High going to put that Nat Turner spirit on his peoples. And I'm going to touch verse 8. Most High said, it's a time to love. And it's a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. Because you know, once you go to war, after war then comes peace. And you know, in that turn, he loved to hate them. He loved to hate them. But you know, the so-called white man, you know, the devil that the Bible speaks of, his wordplay is like no other. His wordplay is like no other. So, you know, when it came down to being in slavery, you know, the things that he was saying to us as a whole, the things that he did. But, you know, I'm going to let the Most High tell you just how his wordplay was like no other. We'll go to Psalms 55. Psalms chapter 55 and verse 3. It said, because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked, for they cast iniquity upon me, and in wrath they hate me. So the iniquity they have cast is sin. Even to this day, it's still sin. And the sin that they have casted upon us is they little man-made holidays. The things that they allow you to do here in America and abroad, especially because, you know, God's chosen people has been scattered to all four corners of the earth. So if you taking in the things that is of your oppressor, your enemies, like especially they man-made holidays, yeah, that's the iniquity they have cast upon you. And in wrath, yes, in wrath, in the killing, they do hate us. So I'm gonna touch on verse 21. It say the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. War was in his heart. And look at when they first came upon the Native American Indians. They didn't come here nothing but to do one thing: to seek, kill, and destroy. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. And with the swords they have drawn, they have killed. They have killed. I'm talking about after signing the peace treaty, they have killed. And they have took them too into slavery. They have took them too into slavery. So I'm gonna touch a little more on their wordplay. Psalms chapter 58, verse 2 through 3. Yet in heart ye work wickedness. Yea, the violence of your hands in the earth. Notice it's saying the earth, because all throughout the earth, violence by their hands have went everywhere they have stepped foot on the face of this earth. They have took violence with them. They have killed, murdered, they have robbed, raped. Everywhere they step foot on the face of this earth. At verse 3, say the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. So now if you want to know who the wickedness is, when you look at Job chapter 9, verse 24, it say the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, of the wickedness. And out of Psalms 55, verse 3, it say because of the voice of our enemy. I'm gonna show you who our enemies is. I'm gonna show you who our enemy is. And I'm gonna speak and I'm gonna touch more going into slavery. You know, but a lot of people don't even know that slavery is even in the Bible, because this is not being taught in Christianity. This is not being taught in the church. So we listen to our little rap songs, we listen to this and that and the third, and we think that our enemies is our own people, which is not. But the Most High told us for years, the Most High have done told us for years who is our enemy. The Most High have done told us who is our enemy. But you know, some of our people never heard of it or even read it for themselves. They have never heard who our enemy is, never even read it for themselves. But then they like to sit and say that God loves everybody. I mean, I never read that in the Bible. But I'm going to go to Deuteronomy 28 and verse 68. It says, God shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. When you go to Exodus, Salaki. When you go to, let me see if I can touch this real quick. Exodus. When you go to Exodus Like when you go into Exodus, it talks about how we was in. It talks about how we was already in Egypt. We was in slavery. We was in at one point in time. We was in slavery to the Egyptians for 400 years. So now I'm gonna read this again. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. So what I'm gonna tell you what Egypt means. I'm gonna tell you what Egypt means. When you go to Deuteronomy chapter 5 and 6. Deuteronomy chapter 5 and 6. It say, I'm the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. So Egypt means bondage. Egypt means bondage. So this right here is telling you that, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. So you know we already done been into Egypt. But you know over there you cannot go into Egypt by no way of ship. So this is talking about coming to America, because America is the new Egypt. America has took on the custom and the ways of Egypt. It say, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. Don't you know everybody that comes to America, every other nation that comes to America can go to the country that they are from, except for the real true Israelite. Them people that over there now, they're Israelis. Sidebar for a second. The true Israelites left from out of Israel black. Ain't no way they gonna return over there looking like these so-called white people. There's no way, no sense. I'm gonna read it from the top, but I'm gonna go all the way through it. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies. You know what that is. Ye shall be sold unto your enemies. For bondmen and bondwomen, for slave men and slave women, and no man shall buy you, meaning no man shall save you. And here are some precepts to show and prove that slavery still exists in the Bible. I'm going to go to Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 33. Jeremiah chapter 50 verse 33. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. All them. You have 18 nations upon the face of this earth. All 17 nations took us into slavery. But the ones that still have us into slavery is these Edomites, the so-called white man, the devil that the Bible speaks of. You still have us in slavery. You still have us in slavery. Look at the chain gangs. Look at these penitentiaries, among other things, but you still have us in slavery. So I'm going to go to Acts chapter 7. Acts 7 and 6. And God spake on this wise, that his seed Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that his seeds should sojourn in a strange land, and that they should bring them to bondage and entreat them evil 400 years. That right there self-explanatory. Y'all know here in America, man, the so-called black man, Hispanic, Native American man have been in slavery for 400 years. Y'all know we have been in slavery for 400 years, 400 plus. 400 plus. So now I'm going to go on and touch on some more topics talking about slavery. I'm going to go back to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 32. Deuteronomy 28. Chapter 28, verse 32. It says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and fare with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. This right here, when they, and you know, earlier I read how Nat Turner was sold like 3 times into slavery as a child. So back then, when they were selling off the parent's child, this is what this is talking about, because it was nothing that a father and mother could do. Now I'm gonna bring it more up to speed. When you go in the courtroom, when you have a mother that's sitting in the courtroom, because 9 out of 10 times, you know, you have kids that's coming up in a single parent home, but that's a whole nother topic. When they get sentenced, whether it's male or female, when they get sentenced, it's nothing. It's nothing that the parent can do. Nothing that the parent can do. And you know, and they longing for them all the day long, and there should be no might in thy hand. Because for one, when you sitting up in court and you committed a crime, you gotta have a lawyer. You gotta have a little bit of, you know, depending on the crime, you gotta have some money to pay for this lawyer if you want to see some daylight, if you don't want to get locked up. But with that being said, if you don't have the money, you don't have the means to get a lawyer, you know, 9 times out of 10, these people is not gonna let you go. I already read that in Jeremiah chapter 50:33, when they refuse to let you go. And with that being said, look, if it wasn't for DNA coming up, you had brothers that was getting incarcerated back in the early 70s that were just getting released here in the 2000s for crimes that they did not even commit. They was getting released just off of the strength of the DNA. They was getting released just off of the strength of the DNA. So imagine you being 1972 and you get released like 2010. Yo, that's crazy. That's insane. That is insane. You sitting up all them years for something you didn't even, because you know these so-called white people, they ain't trying to hear that. Even not to this day, they is not trying to hear that. They is not trying to hear that. So I'm going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 4. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. And then you couldn't even enjoy your son or your daughter. Even to this day, you can't enjoy them. And you know, as a parent, you know, we like to say we got to hold a parent accountable for their kids' actions. But let me not say but. If a parent is talking to their child, 9 times out of 10, you know, your mother is somewhat of your first teacher. Because your father, he's the provider. Your mother is not going to tell you to go out here and do crazy stuff that's going to get you locked up, because she know that she don't have no money for one to get you out. She don't have no money for a lawyer. She don't have no money for you to be calling on the phone, things of that nature. So she is not going to put no more on her than she can bear. So she is not going to go and tell you to go out here and do crazy things and this and that and the third. No, she is not going to do that. She is not going to do that. And it's hard for a single parent mother to raise a son, especially if you don't have a hold on him when you done got mad at his father and you not having no man in his life, because by the time he get like 15, 16, if he already been dipping and dabbing in the streets, he kind of like a little bit too far gone. So by the time he's 16, it's a little bit over. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose him to the judicial system. You're going to lose him to the judicial system, and they are going to re-raise him, because now he is going into captivity and he is in slavery. So now he belongs to them. And when I say them, I'm talking about the so-called white man. I'm talking about the devil that the Bible speaks of. So I'm going to touch on Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 50. It said, "A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young." So when it came to our males, so-called Native American Indian, they was killing us. They was killing us at will. And even right now to this day, they don't show no regards to the young. They wasn't showing no regards to the young back then when they was cutting the babies out, the mother's stomach, seeing who gonna die first. They didn't show no regards to the young when they were doing the alligator baits. They still not showing no regards to the young when they got these abortions. And all of this falls up under slavery. And slavery is heavy. But we wouldn't even be in this predicament, which is a whole nother class. Here in the ISUPK, the Commander Junior Hunter, we keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. And we coming up out of this. Thus saith the Most High, we coming up out of this. And this here is another form of slavery that still exists to this day. I'm going to touch on some more slavery. Go to Zechariah chapter 11. But like I said, the only way we coming up out of slavery is when that sky cracks. Zechariah chapter 11, verse 5. Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. They never have not guilty for the abortions, for the alligator baits. They didn't even hold themselves guilty for the killing of any young so-called Black, Hispanic, Native. And one of their laws that they hold in the Constitution that is their law is that it's no statute of limitations on murder. So if it ain't no statute of limitations on murder, then why y'all not holding yourself accountable? But you heard it here. The Most High said it best. Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, "Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich," and their own shepherds pity them not. When they say our own shepherds pity them not, meaning that our people in rulership, they will not step forward. And when I say our people in rulership, I'm talking about from Congress on down, even down to our black leaders, as far as like our pastors, y'all preachers, y'all call yourself reverends, y'all call yourself bishops. Y'all don't go sit in city councils and push for a bill that would be a hate bill towards so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. But then these people want to sit and say that these people that took us into slavery, saying that blessed be the Lord, like the Lord is with y'all. So I'm gonna give you a precept. Psalms 50 and verse 21. Psalms chapter 50, verse 21. These things hast thou done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such as one as thyself. So this is the Most High talking about the things that went on when Zechariah was saying about how whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty, and they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord. Salaki. But you know, they thought that the Most High was with them, which he is not. But the Most High said, but I will reprove thee and set them in order before thy eyes. So the Most High is going to correct y'all in front of us. And he's going to set y'all in order in front of us. So I'm going to go to Habakkuk. Habakkuk chapter 2. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 12. And it's saying, it's a woe to him that buildeth a town with blood and established a city by iniquity. So we all know that America was built off of the blood of slaves. These so-called devils that took God's chosen people into slavery, they have built towns and cities. They have built towns and cities off of the bloodshed. But the word woe is destruction and death. Destruction and death to him that buildeth a town with blood and established a city by iniquity. Establish a city by sin. Come on. Y'all got to pay for that. Y'all got to pay for that now. I'm going to give you another precept to back that up. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 3. And all of this right here is dealing with slaves. All this right here is dealing with slavery. Chapter 3, verse 11. Salaki. It say, woe unto the wicked. There go that word again. Woe unto the wicked. That word woe means destruction and death. Destruction and I'm going to read it just like that. Destruction and death unto the wicked. It shall be him. For the reward of his hand shall be given him. The Most High said it best. Especially in Galatians 6 and 7. The Most High said, be not deceived. Whatsoever a man sows, so shall he reap. I'm kind of paraphrasing it. But I'm going to give you another precept that's dealing with slavery. Let's look at Lamentations. Bear with me, Israel. All right, Lamentations chapter 3 and verse 6. At verse 64. Lamentations chapter 3 verse 64. Render unto them a recompense, O Lord, according to the work of their hands. So it's no getting around that. It is no getting around that. It is no getting around what the things that y'all have done. It is no getting around that. And I'm going to give you more that's dealing with slavery. I'm going to go into Exodus chapter 21. Exodus chapter 21. So like Exodus chapter 21 verse 16. I'm looking at something else. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. He shall surely be put to death. Guess what, America? Y'all still have slaves within y'all hands. That's why America, y'all have got to burn. And that's just some of the many things that y'all have done. Some of the many things that y'all have done. But I'm going to give you one more precept. I'm going to go to Revelations chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13, verse 9 and 10. It said, any man have an ear, let him hear. Verse 10, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. And this is future prophecy. Notice what it says. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Ain't no might be gonna think about it. Man, the Most High say shall go into captivity. And he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Must be killed with the sword. And I got a strong Salaki. I got a strong precept for that. Jeremiah 48:10. Y'all think it's a game with the Most High. The Most High ain't playing. Jeremiah 48 verse 10. It say, cursed be he that doeth the work of the Lord deceitfully. And cursed be he that keepeth back his sword from blood. Man, the Most High ain't playing. The Most High is not playing. The Most High is not playing. But I'm going to finish this out. Verse 10, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword, hit with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So, fear not. They are going, every nation that took us into slavery, y'all going into slavery. Every nation that took us into slavery, y'all going into slavery. And we going back in our rightful rulership. We going back into our rightful rulership. We are going back into our rightful rulership. And with that being said, I'm going to give a courtesy to salute to the brothers. Yahweh Shem, Yahweh Shabbarakathon. To the sisters, Yahweh Shamar, El Atham, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. Class dismissed.